layer actually. Okay. Hello? Hello? Better. Getting echo. Yeah, grab those. So what I got from what Naki, you guys are Revit to do product development stuff. Is that right? So modeling new products to get them approved and looked at by the people that need to look at them. That's accurate. Okay. Yeah, let's go. This is Revit. Everyone opened it? No?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So yeah, intro screen, projects up at the top, families down at the bottom. We'll deal with projects right now. We'll get in it somewhat, but for the most part, we're going to be in the project environment. But the two work together, so I'll have to show you at least some rudimentary family stuff so that you know how to use them in your project, but probably not get into family modeling all that much and just stick in the project design workflow. Whenever you start a new project, it gives you options for templates. We have a custom template that we use, but for training purposes, we'll just use the standard architectural template. All right, as an intro, how to find your way around in Revit, on the first page of the handout that I gave you, there's a little graphic. And I have different areas of the interface labeled, so as I'm going through, I'll mention an area to it with my mouse. But if you don't remember what I'm talking about later, if you're watching this, just go to that, and we'll show you.
Who?
Quick run.
Do you have another?
Oh yeah. Sorry. All right, quick run through of the interface though. So quick access toolbar, there's some tools up here that it's nice to have quick access to rather than having to find them buried underneath the tab. We'll cover those as we need to. This main area up here is called the ribbon. This is where all of your tools are, and the ribbon is separated out into tabs. So each one of these is a tab. And normally, when I write it out in the outline, if I have a sequence of tools that or a tool that I need you to find, I'll give you the sequence of where to find it. So it'll be tab first. So I'll say go to the architecture tab, go to room and area, drop down, and find something there. So in that second section, importing file site creation, all of those bolded lines in there. So property line creation says mapping and site property line. That means go to a specific tab tool under the tab. Main drawing window. When you open a view or a sheet, this is where it pops up for most of your work. Project browser over on the left-hand side is split out into various areas: views, legends, schedules, quantities, sheets, families, groups, and links. And it's pretty easy how you move through it. Plus sign opens it, minus sign closes it. You can also just double-click on things sometimes. Sometimes it opens the item, but there's no item to open. It'll just open the thing in the project browser. Right now, there's no legends, schedules, or sheets in here, so there's nothing, no plus sign to open them up. As you create them, it'll automatically populate this browser. And you can organize this browser with specifically the views and the sheets in several different ways, depending on how you work. You can do that by right-clicking and going up to the type properties. We'll cover that a little bit more later. Your properties window, anything that you have selected gives you the instance properties for that element over here in the properties window. There are also, so there's a, maybe I should explain the difference between a type and an instance. An instance is an individual item which has been placed in a project. A type is the definition for that type of object. So you can have multiple instances of a type. So if you have a window type, for example, you can have 4 instances of that type in your project. Some of the properties of that window are type properties, so they're the same for all 4, or for the type for all 4 of the instances, and some properties you can change by the instance. So anything over in this properties window is an instance parameter. To get to a type parameter, you have to go here. Yeah, again, all of this stuff we'll get into more detail later. At the very bottom of your drawing window, there are a couple of tools here: scale, detail level, visual style. There's a couple of others. Most of these, well, some of these you guys might use if you're doing more rendering stuff. For most of the project designers that are just doing flat drafted views, most of these things don't change. There's like sun orientation and cropping and those sorts of things. Hide, isolate, and reveal hidden elements. These two you'll probably use a lot. They're really helpful in isolating the element that you want to work on in the view. But again, we'll get into that stuff later. And then one of the things which is really easy to overlook because it's so small on the screen, well, there's sort of 2 bars. One up here, you see this bar turned green when I selected a tool. I went under Architecture and selected the wall tool. This gives me all of the options associated with the wall that I'm about to draw. So click and draw my wall in the drawing window. And you want to set any of these properties before you start to draw. Once you draw it, you have to select the element, and then you have to change it in the properties inside of your instance properties window rather than changing it in the options bar. But if you set it in the options bar before you draw it, then it will automatically apply those to the object. They'll still show up here, but you won't have to go and change them after the fact. The one other place which I feel like important to know about and easy to forget about is down here on the bottom. See right here where it says to enter wall start point. This is, what's it called? Status bar. But this will give you a hint as to what Revit wants you to do at that point. It'll change based on what tool you have selected. So right now, because I selected the wall tool, click to enter the start point. If I click to enter the start point, you can see it changes down at the bottom. Now enter to end wall point. This is a pretty simple tool. For some more complicated tools, there's sometimes 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 steps, and it's hard to remember sort of which order you need to do them in. This is a really good first place to check to figure out what Revit's looking for. So, and down at the bottom of the screen and doesn't light up in frequent modes, and so it's easy to forget about, but if the tool is not behaving how you expect it to behave, it's a good thing. Most of it. The other element of the space, which only shows up in certain views, specifically 3D views, is something with view cube up. You can click on areas in order to orient your drawing window. Just draw walls, see what that's doing. So you can see right now it's in inline mode. If I want to change it to another display mode, I find it easiest to work in 3D using the shaded display mode. It doesn't have to do the full rendering, but I think the colors give a little better sense of depth. That's usually how I work in 3D mode. To move around in 3D space, you guys, if you hold Control and middle button, the scroll wheel button, and up and down, that's for zoom. If you hold Shift and the middle button, that pans around. And then the first of many shortcut keys, which I'm sure you guys are going to be using, is ZE, zoom extend. Whenever you do a shortcut in Revit, it's always two numbers, two keystrokes. If you guys are familiar with working in AutoCAD, you don't have to hit Enter or spacebar to activate it. It automatically gets activated after you hit the second key. So if I go Z, as soon as I hit the E, I don't have to hit anything, it just does it. The only exception to that rule is you can assign the same two keys to a tool, to two different tools, and I think you have to spacebar through it to find the right one. I don't like doing that because that's just what I want, so I try not to have duplicate key commands. But you'll figure out a lot of the key commands on your own. Some of them, any command that has a keyboard shortcut to it, when you mouse over it, you see two keys in parentheses. That's the keyboard shortcut. So if you're using something a lot, hover over it. Oh, okay, WA is for wall. Those keyboard shortcuts you can change underneath View tab, User Interface, far over on the right-hand side, keyboard shortcut. And you can search for a tool, and it'll tell you if there's a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. And if there's nothing assigned to it and you want to assign it, you just put it down here, hit Assign. It'll tell you if there's a conflict or if a tool already has that assigned to it. And you can go to that tool and remove it or keep it as both and use that toggle thing that I was telling you about. But yeah, you can see with your view cube, clicking on a corner gives me the axon view. Buried under my GoToMeeting thing right now, but you also get these left and right arrows, or clockwise and counterclockwise arrows, if you want to rotate your 3D view. An easy way to do it. Another really nice thing about the 3D view is there's this tool, the section box. So as you can see, I'm in a 3D view, but I don't have anything selected, and therefore in my properties window, it shows me the thing that it is showing me the properties of in this upper bar. And you can actually, this upper bar, you can do some nifty things with if you do have objects selected in terms of switching between objects or changing the type of an object. But in a view, if you don't have anything selected, it gives you the properties for the view. If you're in a sheet and you don't have anything selected, it gives you properties for the sheet. As soon as you select something, now you can see I have my wall selected and it gives me the wall properties instead. But 3D view properties, down here about 2/3 of the way down, there's this section box tool. So you click it to turn it on. And oh, what happened? What happened? So as soon as you select that, Revit's a little bit strange, or something that I don't like about it in the way that the property window works, is that if you change a property in here, it doesn't actually apply it until you hit the Apply button, or you move your mouse off of the window. So if I uncheck that, and then move out, you can see that when I select it, the apply is blue, so it means something hasn't been applied. Once I hit apply, it turns green, which means all of the properties have been applied. Usually if you change it, move off active.
If you press enter?
I think enter works. Yeah, enter is the same as hitting the apply button. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. That's one of my pet peeves, is that sometimes I'll be trying to type something in here and I'll accidentally move my mouse off and it'll sort of apply it as I'm typing it. But it doesn't seem to be doing that right now. But, so now you can see in my 3D view I have a section box. And automatically when you turn on the section box, it expands to include everything that's visible at that time. So the only thing that I have is the wall. As soon as I turned on the section box, you can see it more or less. It gives you a little bit of margin at the edges. top and bottom. I don't actually know how it decides how much margin to give you, but it always is big enough to include everything with a little bit of space. And you can see as you select the box, it gives you these arrows on the 6 sides. And you can click and drag those, and it'll cut through all of your elements. This is really useful for when you have an entire house model and you want to see things that are inside. You can either hide the roof or just make a section box, drag the section box down, and it makes a section cut through it, and you can work with the things inside, and then either turn off your section box or drag it back up, and you can see the whole model of it. So, nice way to work in 3D. I don't know why that's not working. I sort of like that it's not working, but I don't know why it's not working. One of the things I don't like about the section box is that whenever you turn it off and turn it back on, it does not have a memory of where it was last. You turn it off and turn it on, it automatically goes to the extent of whatever's in the modeling window again. And well, interrupt, edit, middle of a sentence, doesn't matter. If you guys have questions or something doesn't make sense, just let me know.
So can you show how to do, like, set up 3 views? Like,
yeah.
So you can set up one, so can you just add a view and then another.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah, I hit this button, which is default 3D view in the taskbar. What's it called? Quick access toolbar. That takes too long to say. Yeah, so this is default 3D view, which is the same as going under View tab, 3D view, default 3D view. This is axonometric. If you want to make perspective views, you have to do cameras. Cameras I don't work with very much. I haven't done a whole lot of rendering or setting up views in Revit. Small amount that I have used them, I find the interface a little bit difficult to use.
I think camera's really good if you're doing it in 3D view.
Yes, that is probably correct. So you guys are probably going to want to use them, but I'm not going to show them to you, so you'll have to figure it out yourself, because I would just confuse you by trying to show you how they work. But yeah, I know that when you make one, you do a click and drag. It has the initial point of the camera and then the focal point of the camera, and it automatically brings you into the view. But then to modify it, and then you have to go like back into your view. Yeah, I think that's your view depth, so it won't see anything beyond that. 3D view one. So yeah, so you see how it sort of chopped off the left side of that wall. That's because I didn't set the view depth far enough to see it. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I can't really show you too much about it. But to make other axonometric 3D views, you just go make another default. I think you already have one. I think you have to rename this one, which you can do by once it's selected. You can change the view name in the property window, or I think if it's already selected and you hit it again, you have to right-click and do rename, and it'll put that up. It's exactly the same as changing the name. Looking very strangely today. But yeah, once I renamed it, then I can make another axonometric view by hitting that button again. It won't let you make it until you rename it, like you already have a default view. One thing about 3D views is you can lock them. So right now it's unlocked. There's this little house with the lock down at the bottom. If you have a view that you want to place on a sheet or put in a presentation, and you don't want it, you don't want to accidentally move it around, you have it in the spot that you want, just go to Save Orientation, Lock View. Again, it asks you to name it as you're locking it. Locked. So now there's locked. loop locked. If I try to use my, it'll let me zoom, but it won't let me rotate. And it will still let me pan. But yes, you can change, I think, the scale of it, but you can't change the orientation of it. And then you can always unlock it, and then you have full control.
So once you unlock it, go to another view, and then go back to the loop lock. Is it?
It remains unlocked. Yeah.
All right.
That is persistent regardless of.
But it goes back to the view that was saved originally. But now you can just spin around it if you want to.
Yes. It will save whatever the view of the last time you were in this view, so I can sort of barely see that. Now I go back into it, again I'm in the same view. If I rotate like that, go to another view, and go back, stays the same one. So it doesn't change whenever you leave or go back to the view. All right, I think most of this second section is all about site creation stuff, which is for mainly project owners. I talk about bringing in a CAD file, making topography in a CAD file. Again, I'm sure you would love to learn about it, but it doesn't seem like it's probably going to be the main thing that you guys focus on being in product, so I'm going to skip over. Want to cover. Shows you the section box. So whenever you're using the project browser, if I've been double clicking here to go to this view, double clicking here to go to this view. When you go to a new view, it doesn't actually close any of the other views that you were in. All of them stay open in the background. So if I say tile all of my open views, these are all of the views that I've opened since I started this project. It doesn't generally matter too much to have open views in the background. It takes up a little bit of memory for the machine, but it's not enough that you'll really notice it. But sometimes you have to switch back and forth between views, or you want to tile a couple of views because you want to select in one and work in another. So it's more for navigation purposes that it's nice only to keep the views open that you want to be working in and switch back and forth to and from.
Is it possible to get the views like on our two monitors? I tried it. I couldn't find a way to do it.
There's no easy way to do it that I know of. Okay. I think depending on your monitor settings, if you maximize your view, whenever I try to do it, it only goes to one of my screens or multiple screens, and so you have to, unmaximize it and then manually stretch it, and then it's a lot of manual. So if you're going to have two views open and working in them for a long time, it's probably worth doing that. And I do know a lot of people don't maximize and just stretch their whole view out for that reason. But yeah, there's no special trick to it that I know of. Yeah, so whenever you hit the tile button, it takes all of your open views. If you have multiple projects open, it will tile all of the views from all of your projects in the windows.
So not just the file.
If I opened another project, so this is sort of unnamed because it's project 3 right now. So yeah, if I hit tile, it tiles these two windows, but if I opened up another project,
it would tile all.
And it would tile all of your windows, which is sometimes nice if you need to switch back and forth between projects. And I think I have it set to WT is my tile command. So I'll go to one view, work in it, do whatever I need to, WT, switch to the other one and open it up. So it's easy. It's an easy way to switch back and forth between windows. But yeah, it opens everything that you have. If you minimize it, however, it goes down here, and then it won't tile the minimized views. Easy way to switch back and forth between views other than tiling is up again in your quick access toolbar, this one on the far right. If you use this drop-down, it will show you all of the windows that you have open, and you can switch back and forth between that. And then the one right next to it is closed hidden windows, which means this is your open window. You hit close hidden windows, it closes them all in the background. It will not close a project using close hidden windows. So if you have, again, 2 projects open, you have 2 windows open in each project. You hit the close hidden windows, it's only going to close one project. It's not going to close your project. You don't have to worry about accidentally closing something that you didn't save. It won't do that. So yeah, those are nice and quick, easy way to navigate around. All right, so I think that's most of the interface selecting stuff. At least in 3D. So now let's move on to looking at flat views. This is the one that we started out in. And you can see there's already these section elevation marks on all 4 sides. And this is just what the template that I used had inside of it. It already had these made. If they weren't made, the way that you create views is underneath the view toolbar, all of these things in here. So these are pretty simple and self-explanatory. Section, click, drag out here. So click and release, and then move to your end spot, and then click again. Most things are click and click rather than click and drag. I think there are some things which are click and drag. For the most part, you don't have to hold down the button for a lot of things. Inside your section, this again is your depth. So just like before, which one we were looking at? Oh, that we made. You can only see as deep as this box is stretched out, and this is your cropping. So when you go to that window, it's only going to show this much width. One of the nice things about Revit from a drawing perspective is that the representation, the annotation of a view, so this section marker, is disconnected from the view itself. So if you want the section to look a particular way on a drawing, you just draw the section how you want it to look, but that doesn't necessarily have to be linked to how big the view actually is. For the view, you get the flip arrows, and that just flips the direction of the view. These at the top, they don't actually change anything about the view, they just change the representation. So if you want to have no section head, nothing at all, or the section head, you just use those to change that visual representation. Again, not changing anything about the view itself. And most tools to get out of in Revit is either a single escape or a double escape. Single escape usually keeps you in the same tool, but just gets you out of whatever the particular thing that you're drawing. So if you're drawing a wall, click, again, I'm moving around at the second point. And then I drag out again, it takes the end of that first point as the beginning of the second wall. If I want to cancel this particular wall but stay in the wall tool, escape once, and now if I click again, I'm drawing another line. If I hit escape twice, it takes me out of the wall entirely, and now I'm back to my pointer, which allows me to select things and modify them. So single escape to stay in the tool, double escape to go back to your selection tool. And also with views, you can go into that view by double-clicking in section, double-click on the section head. With elevations, you click on the arrow which represents the elevation. So I want to go into the section, double-click on the head, it opens up the window. Here it shows me my bounding box. This is linked to that dashed line that I showed you in the other two. And you can see if I drag my bounding box, my what do they call it? It's either crop window or bounding box. I think it's crop window. Yeah, crop region. See, I have my section selected. If I want my crop region to be visible, so you see I turned that off, and now I can't see my crop region. Can't modify it. Turn it back on, and I can see it again. The other thing that you can do is you can tell it to crop or not to crop. So you can see I turned off my crop in my view, and now I can see everything, but because I have my crop region still on, it shows me where it's going to crop when I turn that back on. This is a really nice thing to be able to do if you don't want to continue moving your crop region in and out to be able to see things that you want to modify. You know, let's say you want to modify this wall, but you can't see it. You don't have to, you know, drag this, modify it, pull it back in. You can just turn off your crop, modify it, and turn it back on. It's really nice for when you have your views laid out on sheets and you want them to be the particular size and you have that size set and everything's laid out nice and happy. And that's our 15-minute warning. I think some of you covered this in the training with Danielle a few weeks ago, but here are a couple of base levels that the project starts with because of the template. And so you can see these walls that I drew. I was in the floor plan level 1 view when I drew them, and so they defaulted to being on level 1. When I select a wall, base constraint is set to level 1. You can manually change that. And move it up to level 2. You can also set your top constraint. So if I say I want my wall to go from level 1 to level 2, rather than right now it's set to unconnected and just has a hard-coded 20-foot wall inside of it. If I want to change that, say up to level 2, you can see the unconnected height grays out to 10 feet, which means I can't go in there and select it because it's linked to the wall. Now it's linked together. If I take the level, select it, anything you have selected is turned blue. Anything you're about to select turns blue. This is a good visual indicator to tell you what you're about to be working on. If there is a question or there are multiple things that can be selected with your pointer at a point, hitting the tab key cycles through all of the potential options for you to select at that point. This is really, really useful for when you're working and there's a lot of things which converge at a single point, where you're trying to select a window in a wall rather than select a wall itself. Using the tab select just sort of goes through everything that you could potentially select. And then when it goes to the right one, then you click it and it selects it for you. This also works. I'll go back to level 1. Oh yeah, so my other wall, now it's up on level 2, which is why I can't see it, because my cut plane is below the element. But if you have multiple items which are joined together, you can see I mouse over them and the individual element turns blue. If you hit tab, you can chain select, is what that's called. And then I hit tab again, and it just goes back to the individual thing. So the only two things that I can select with my pointer being here, either the individual wall or the chain of all walls which are connected. And that's really nice, so you can modify a bunch of things all at once. A bunch of walls, you're like, oh, actually, I want those to change as well. You can select them all at once. Disappeared because I'm still in my level 1 view and I moved up to level 2. See, things are joining together where they cross. This is the way that walls generally work. It'll try to auto-join them together if they can. There are other things that you can join together. You can join walls and floors together, and it'll sort of intersect layers inside of the walls and floors. We'll look more at that when we go in depth looking at these families, but Revit will generally try to auto-join things if it can. Sometimes this is really great, and sometimes it's not so great. And if you want to join things, you can disallow joins. So when I select this wall, it gives me the blue control point. It's the wall end. So I can select it and drag that away and change it. You can also right-click on a wall end, allow join, and now it doesn't allow the two things to be joined together. Drag it off and drag it back on. You can see it's snapping to endpoint. I'm getting that little purple magenta box. Snaps back together, and again, it's joining again. So it only works temporarily. It's persistent, but if you move it, it sort of undoes that, and then will automatically try to join it together again if it can. Oh yeah, see, when I move it off now, it's asking me if I want to unjoin elements. It wants to keep them joined, but it can't because of the changes. You say unjoin. Another way to make sure that walls are joined, if you want them to be, under the Modify tab at the far end, you can use, you'll use these a lot, the Modify command. These work for anything where a model element is based on a line. You have a bunch of tools that you're all familiar with from other programs: align, offset, mirror. This one's mirror by picking an axis. This is mirror by drawing an axis. Splitting with gap, array, scale. Trim and extend works a little bit differently than most programs you've probably used before. Trim, instead of selecting the things that you want to get rid of, you select the things that you want to keep. Yeah. So I select that, brings them together. So better. Yeah, so trim. So normally probably what you're used to is, oh, I want to trim this off and I want to trim that off. In Revit, it's I want to keep this and I want to keep this.
Kind of like
What's that?
kind of like filleting.
Yeah, it's more like filling or extending. Right.
Why is it being weird about how it joins?
Wait, being weird about that. I think because this bottom one, the endpoint is here rather than there. But now it's there. Joins are sometimes a little bit finicky. If it's not joining right, the easiest thing to do is to drag it away and then drag it back in, and it sort of tries to figure out how it's supposed to join. I think it's because I did that disallow join and then made it join again and it got confused by something. But yeah, Revit will, not often, but occasionally get confused, especially if there's multiple things trying to join at one point. So if you have, say, 3 walls coming together at a point, the best thing to do is put the 2 walls together that you want to join together and set that join how you want it, and then join the third one in. The third one usually won't overwrite the first join, and it'll try to figure out how to join it in without messing up that first one. The other way that you can modify your wall join, there's actually there's a join tool and there's a wall join tool. Different. And wall join is specifically for wall corner connections like this. You can see I selected it and box around it to tell you what corner it's looking at. And then as I selected that, you can see it gives me some options up here. So it gives you an option for a butt or a miter. So there's my miter. And then for a butt join, this wall is extending to the end, and this wall is coming in to meet it. If I hit next, it flips it the opposite way. And sometimes you'll have multiple walls coming in at the same point, and so if there will be 20 different ways to join the walls together, you can just keep hitting next to previous, and it'll cycle through all of them. It's really tedious. I would recommend that instead of doing it that way, set up a 2-wall join first, get it how you like it, and then bring the third wall in.
And that has to do with what the interior of the wall is. I mean, is that because of the complexity of what you can include in these?
This is a really simple wall, so it's kind of steep, but there are some, you can have multiple layers in your wall, and so depending on how the wall is, determines what happens at that corner. Yeah, we'll look at that when we look more. I think we should probably stop it there and pick up after the Revit meeting, because I've got 5 minutes to get ready for that, and I think we're about to be invaded by the project designers. Yeah. So yeah, we'll stop this for now and pick up. Like, you guys are welcome. Project design stuff about at this point.